+1 to existing operations in China. So they're not replacing China, but they're expanding out of China and looking to have a +1 strategy in alternative markets.
Yeah, I see that some of the companies, they reshift their manufacturing factory from China to Vietnam. So what's the reason behind that, besides the cost?
No, it's really cost. The cost measured different ways. Cost by dollar term, then cost by convenience and long-term outlook. But really, the main reason a lot of people look at Vietnam is because of labour costs. The labour cost at the moment is almost 50% cheaper than if you look at second and third tier cities in China. You know, people talk about labour issues in Vietnam, continual strikes. Yes, it causes problems. But on a relative basis, this is happening across all markets. So while we have complexities and issues here, the same issues are being seen in other markets. So comparatively, Vietnam is a lot cheaper. In terms of land prices as well, in second and third tier cities in China, it's almost 50% less. The other thing as well is infrastructure and connectivity, which Minh mentioned earlier. Vietnam, you can find good sites close to airports with connectivity to good roads and ports. As you move further inland in China, you're moving further away from the sea, further away from logistics, further away from not just labour but skilled labour, technicians, engineers. So all these factors fall into the cost analysis.
Yeah. So we want to continue with that with Minh about what do you think about a trend that we are seeing now that some multinational companies, they are looking at Vietnam as a cost-effective region for manufacturing? Well, there's a lot of evaluation regarding, how the multinational are actually moving toward which country they're going to move in the future apart from China. And as you guys say, exactly, they're moving toward all the more cost-effective countries. And Vietnam exactly at the moment is evaluating as one of the best destinations for investment in the whole region. This one, exactly our personal experience, because at the moment, for the last 6 months in our industrial park, we can see that there's a significantly increasing in inquiry. We have inquiry from a lot of customers, but the number of the multinational companies is actually increasing a lot. And at the moment, you can see that they all were inquiring about the cost of construction, about the cost of labor, about the cost of infrastructure, and that is what happened at the moment in our industrial park at the moment.
So you see that trend also happen in the industrial park?
Yeah, it's happened a lot right now.
Alright, then Greg, can you share with me about how you think about the favorable government policy will support the industrial sector in shaping their growth, and which sector will be the most beneficial from that? Yeah. Again, this is something which we're seeing a lot of investors starting to ask as well. They're really educating themselves not just about pricing but also incentives. When you talk about government policy, we really need to break that down. We need to look at that in terms of incentives, in terms of infrastructure development, and in terms of policy development to encourage investment. If we look at infrastructure development, we're getting there, but we still have a long way to go. I'm not sure if you've driven out from Ho Chi Minh City to Binh Duong lately during peak hour.
Yeah, it will take a long time.
Yeah, it does. And it's an issue for many manufacturers who are looking at this as a short-term play. But people who take a long-term view don't see that as a major issue. So coming back to your point, infrastructure development is key. We're seeing proposed roads, proposed airports. The timing is essential. In terms of incentives and government policy in that respect, we're seeing the Vietnam government focusing on targeting clean industries and high-tech sectors. It's no secret that the Vietnam government is targeting 500 new high-tech companies by 2020. That is going to be a significant effort to achieve. But the right systems are in place. They're not perfect, but they're getting there. particularly in terms of incentives for high-tech manufacturers. There's 5 or 6 elements to the high-tech incentive, but the key thing in those incentives is a corporate income tax incentive and tax incentives for some of these manufacturers coming in.
Yeah, so we mentioned about labor costs in Vietnam. How you think about it, and how you compare it to the regional costs, especially China?
In terms of labor, and we compare it again to China, this is a statistic which blows me away. You look at the Vietnam labor force, you've got a working force population of which 60% are under the age of 30. Let's compare that to China. An aging population, a generation of a one-child policy where they're feeling the effects now. So if we weigh up labor costs, Vietnam at the moment, and Minh, you can probably share from your own part, is about 50% that of China. And on top of that, we have abundant and readily available labor. And that is key for some of these major manufacturers coming into Vietnam.
Yeah. And about the industrial part, what is the construction cost for the industrial part? When you're looking at the construction cost in Vietnam, or anywhere in the world really, you're looking at the 3 major things. Firstly is the cost for the land, the secondly is the cost for the labor, and the thirdly is the cost for the material. Let's say compared to China, obviously Vietnam, in terms of construction material cost, Vietnam we are a bit more expensive compared to China really. However, if you're looking at back at the labor cost, obviously again we already know that labor cost in Vietnam is cheaper, and as long as when we talk about the land cost in Vietnam is cheaper than in China. However, there's another thing that happens in China right now. Is when you look at all the big cities in China, the construction ratio over there is very low. What happens is in Vietnam, the construction ratio over here is around 65 to 70%. In China, the construction ratio is only 55%. Add up all that one, normally you're looking at the different, in comparison between the construction cost in Vietnam and China, it's around 15% to 25% different, so it's cheaper than over there. And about the land rental, land releasing, is it cheaper in Vietnam compared to China?
I think it's probably not fair to compare it to say Beijing and Shanghai, which is considerably more expensive. But if we put it on a apple-to-apple basis and say some of the second, third tier cities like Chengdu, for example, Vietnam is about 50% cheaper. So if we look at, say, Chengdu versus Binzong as land per square meter for industrial in an industrial park, it's around 50 to 40% cheaper.
So can I say that Vietnam is getting more competitive than China now?
I'd say that's a very fair statement to make.
Yep. And how about you, Minh? Well, I think, what happened is, when you look at all the everything is there, but there's nothing stick more than actually what happened right now, and I can see that it's reflecting a lot from our newspaper at the moment.
Alright, thank you.
Thưa quý vị, bây giờ chúng ta tạm dừng cuộc trò chuyện này trong ít phút trước khi bước sang phần 3 của chương trình.
Điều gì tác động đến thị trường bất động sản? Chính sách, luật lệ, đô thị hóa, giao thông hay môi trường? Bất động sản 360 độ phản ánh mọi khía cạnh bằng những câu chuyện sinh động xảy ra xung quanh chúng ta. Quý vị sẽ có được cái nhìn toàn diện về thị trường bất động sản. Hãy đón xem vào thứ năm 19:30 trên kênh FBC.
Chương trình FBNC câu chuyện bất động sản phần 3 xin được trở lại cùng quý vị. Trong phần 3 chúng ta sẽ cùng thảo luận về thách thức và triển vọng của thị trường khu công nghiệp Việt Nam. Polluting industries still a great concerns right now. So in your opinion, what efforts should be done to ensure the economic as well as the environmental benefit?
There's no doubt, when we're talking about the stable development of the society, environmental issue is actually one of the main elements that we actually need to focus on that one. Normally, to ensure the environmental issue is actually enforced in the country, normally it's actually taking a lot of effort from the government. However, in my own opinion, I think
it's not only taking the effort from the government only, but it's further, yeah, we have to be from the infrastructure investor as well. Because the infrastructure investor should be, they should realize that, for a more stable development, yeah, infrastructure, environmental infrastructure is not a liability. It's actually an asset. Exactly, in our own industrial park, a lot of multinational, investor or foreign investor, when they come to the IP, they're looking at IP, and they're actually very interested when they realize that if the IP has a, the environmental infrastructure, and in terms of that, yeah, exactly, it's count as an adding point for the IP, and it's actually give a more positive point, yeah, when the investor actually decide on where they're going to invest it.
Right.
Then, besides the environmental pollution, what are the other weakness that the industrial sector encounters?
I think what we're finding at the moment is a couple of weaknesses. One we touched on before. Personally, this is a weakness which is really happening right now, is infrastructure and connectivity, roads to and from industrial parks. So what a lot of industrial parks do to overcome that, they actually build the roads themselves. Beckermex is a great example of that. In Binzung, they put a lot of infrastructure in place. Another thing about is inefficient use of land in some of these industrial parks. We look at industrial parks which aren't master planned properly. So in order to give back to the community, there can be certain elements whereby there is recreational, retail, residential. So a lot of the older industrial parks can probably be better planned. A lot of the newer parks, if you look at parks like Bdsp24082011.Part2 in the north, they have integrated communities. So they're based on building a community rather than just a manufacturing or industrial hub.
Alright, so several MNCs, multinational companies in China, are considering to expand. This is Vietnam, where labor costs are more effective and we say it's cheaper. Can you say that is it a bright future for industrial sector in Vietnam?
Well, all the signs are pointing that way, and I'm an optimist, but all I can look at is the proof. And the proof is the last 6 to 12 months, and this is incredible. I share this story with my colleagues in China, other developers, investors. In the last 6 to 12 months, the major companies we've seen come to Vietnam is immense. You have Nokia. We supported Nokia CBRE to acquire 17 hectares of land in Bdsp24082011 for a $276 million facility. Across the road from Nokia, Pepsi acquired 20 hectares of land. Honda had confirmed their third motorbike manufacturing plant. Hyundai, their first engine manufacturing plant, and it's the first engine manufacturing plant foreign-owned in Vietnam. Intel came in last year for their largest campus globally in Vietnam, just to name a few. So if you look at some of the names which have come in, a combination of high-tech, light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, the future looks bright. The government is focusing on the high-tech sector. Yes, it is a small component, but we are also seeing a lot of the more traditional manufacturing sectors now looking at Vietnam as well.
Alright, how about you, Minh? How you think about the outlook of Vietnam market? Totally agree with Greg there. Because what happened is, for me, I think for the last 1 year, the government is actually more focused on the industrial part, and then we can see that there's a lot of support policy toward, toward all the, industrial development. Furthermore, exactly, it's not only from the government, but all the infrastructure investors, they realize that, now they actually have to, make the foundation stronger. And exactly, it's ready to all the, to all the multinational players exactly come to Vietnam, Exactly, we can see that a lot of infrastructure investors is actually ready for all the multinational countries to come in right now. So it's looking very bright for Vietnam. So I have a question that whether the multinational company use Vietnam as a new base for their polluting industry by transferring outdated machinery, and technologies. Do you think that?
It's a fair question to ask, and I was in Hanoi last